Hi, everybody, and welcome to the RHAP B&B for Week 6, Episode 6 and 7, quote-unquote merge, whatever you want to call it. We're here talking Survivor 42. My name is Mike Bloom, ready to sit down and talk with two wonderful people about two wonderful episodes of Survivor. Really excited to be here. Happy Easter. Hot pop, bitches. Here we are talking about everything going on, like the Liana Boraas. Could we not substitute like the giant Easter eggs for the giant boulders that they had to roll in this past week?
I don't know what that means at all. What does
Like
that
instead
mean?
of the boulders that they had to roll, and what if
Yes?
instead they were giant? Oh, I guess there was a boulder in front of a certain cave in the story that's affiliated with Easter as well. So like there might be some symbolism going on.
I mean, there's some backstabbing also, right? I feel like that very much ties in. Palm fronds, heavily featured at Survivor. So yeah, maybe a lot more similarities than we had originally thought.
You know, people didn't initially come to the B&B for biblical tie-ins, but I think now we've officially found our path here. And we are so happy to be joined on this path by someone who it's been a minute. It's been a long time since we've had her on, and so many things have happened to her, wonderfully so, in the past few years. She is more welcome here than a menu at Applebee's, including dessert. So happy to welcome back Mary Holland to the B&B. Mary, how you doing?
Wow. Oh my gosh. I mean, what an intro. To be introduced as comparable or even, better than Applebee's is I'm never going to get better praise in my life. Yes, I'm so excited to be here. So excited to talk about this episode with you both. And I really think there are truly so many biblical tie-ins, because I feel like we could even say he is risen about Omar in this episode. Omar is risen.
Omar is risen. Unlike the yeast in the bread affiliated with matzah, I want to cover like all my sort of like
absolutely, absolutely, yes.
There's a lot of holidays going on. Well, Mary,
there
again, like I said, it's been a while. To quote Jeff Probst, like in the beginning of Survivor 41, how have you been? Because if people have been like checking out all the random pop culture things that go on nowadays, they might have seen your name and face pop up a few times.
Right. Yes, everything's great. Plugging along. Yes, I've been very busy and very grateful to be so. Have some fun things coming out. I'm in this movie called Senior Year that's coming out on Netflix May 13th. So check it out. It's gonna be a wild ride. But yeah, everything's good. Just trying to continue to exist on this planet that's slowly dying.
That's a fantastic answer to like how
Is
are
that
you
too
doing?
dark?
So we start I mean, look, yeah, we're talking about Easter, right? So I think it's fine here. Yeah, it's actually wild to think about the fact that we talked to you. Was it before COVID?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was Survivor
wasn't it?
39.
Yeah.
Whoa, that's
So
oh my gosh.
to think about how the world has changed.
Yes.
Yeah, it's fitting.
A lot is going on. A lot is going on.
Well, speaking of everything that's been going on, even outside of these couple of hours, Mary, what have you thought about the quote-unquote new era of Survivor, especially as someone, right, who is like such a devoted fan for so many years? How have you thought about
Absolutely.
the direction that the past couple seasons have been going?
Well, this is what I really appreciate about Survivor, and why I think the show itself has such longevity and just continues to find new audiences while still hanging on to their loyal audiences over the decades it's been a show. And I think it's the thing that I love about it is that they're constantly adapting and trying new things, and pushing that, like, there's no complacency on Survivor, and I appreciate that so much. And so even if there are things thrown into the game in this new era that maybe don't work or are a little too much, too many bells and whistles, I just love that they try things and are constantly trying to evolve with the game. So I think it's great. I'm having a really great time. I love hearing all the analyses of these different twists and turns in the game, and yeah, all the casts are so fantastic in this new era and in the old era as well. But so many great characters, and every single one of them is like a serious game player, like wants to come and play the game. And it's just been so exciting to watch them battle it out.
Are there any particular, I guess, either twists or new advantages that you've found to really enjoy?
Well, I love this amulet advantage.
Mm.
Oh,
I
yes.
love, yes, I love how it was introduced in the first challenge. The nerves are so high. I can't even imagine. They covered themselves in blood. It was, it was just so funny to like force a game decision in one of the most chaotic and heightened moments in the game. It's like your
Mm.
first challenge. You want to perform well. It's you're
Mhm.
creating first impressions with everybody, and then you have to make a huge decision. So I love that it's forced a relationship between these three people, and watching that come to fruition in this episode, and then finally, touch base about it. Yeah, I think the advantages are doing what it feels like they're meant to do, which is how can we complicate behavior and initiate relationships that might not have been initiated otherwise.
Let me ask about the idle phrases because as someone who does come from the world of improv, like, do you
Yeah.
think you would be someone who's natural to do that? To essentially be like, okay, give me a
Oh,
suggestion of a sentence to say on the mat of
I need an
Survivor.
animal.
yes. Yes, I would. Oh my gosh. I really think I would find some way to tie it in somewhat organically. Um, I thought Drea and Marianne both did that so beautifully with their phrases. Like they really like found a way to how can I take what we're currently talking about and just sort of weave this phrase in. And then it made me laugh so hard that Mike was like, I'm not even gonna bother. I think I'll just say it. We're not talking about soccer at all, but I'm gonna just say it. And it was such a hilarious moment to me, but I would really have fun trying to make it feel as conversational as possible. Bunny rabbits, mailboxes, these are things I talk about every day, you know what I mean? So it
Mhm.
wouldn't be hard.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that was the part of the thing that we've been thinking about with Marianne is that it seems like she's just saying lots of kooky things all the time. And so it
Yeah,
just fit right in with part of her personality. So I think that
yeah.
that's definitely a benefit
Totally.
for sure.
It's like this is a fable she knows, I
Yeah,
guess. Yeah.
obviously.
Maybe that's the
Obviously.
thing is, and we don't know if this is continuing for the next seasons, but like maybe you should come in and try to be that shoehorned in metaphor person, right? Like, almost
Right.
like John Oliver esque of like it's like this thing. It's like stepping in a puddle of grapes, and then just so you keep saying these odd things that when you do have to say something, like, oh god, all right, that's Mike. He just talks weird stuff all the
Mhm.
time, so
Oh,
I guess this is par for the
yes.
course.
Yeah, that is a great strategy. I love that.
So let's talking about this 2 hour episode. A lot of, acclaim behind it. I mean, listen, I would love in a perfect world if we had every episode. I mean, not every episode, every merge episode be a 2 hour episode because it is such an important part of the show that I am so happy that the vote may have still been confusing, but there were so many really cool scenes and interactions that we got, and we'll certainly talk about it. But going back to the twists, all right, Liana, take two on the hourglass. Are we smashing this twist now forevermore, or are you saying like there's something there? They're continuing to make tweaks onto it.
Well, obviously, Jeff and the team very aware of all the variables that they could change, including the reward food, which apparently,
Applebee's.
yes, one of the most important. That's what I've been saying for every part of every twist. It's all about the food. Okay, I don't know why we're talking about powers, the way it's executed. It's all about the Applebee's. Yeah, maybe it's just because it was more palatable this time around because I was mentally prepared for it, or because it was in the course of a 2 hour episode, whereas with season 41, it was split up over the course of two episodes. So I was prepared for it, but it still just seems like the concept of you're safe. Okay, no, psych, you're not safe. There's something weird about that in the game of Survivor, but also these are all fake rules that we've made up anyway, so, I don't know.
Isn't that society though? A bunch of like,
True, it's
hey,
all fake.
Hammurabi created the code that we followed. They would buy back in whatever BC, and now we have to follow those laws. Why?
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. Why? So yeah, I don't know. I mean, Mary, what did you feel about this with this twist?
Yeah, well, God, I'm a fan of Applebee's. And so I thought the specificity of the food reward, it really did
See,
do, yes, it did something for these players of like, I am not going to give this up if I get this. I also think, I think there's room for like an ASMR specific ASMR of Jeff Probst describing food. It's
Oh,
the way
ASMR.
yes, the way he said a whiskey burger or whiskey bacon burger, it made me salivate, and I have access to that, very easily. So I think he did such a good job, of course, of selling the Applebee's to the players. And I really loved this twist of it where it was the winning team could elect to
Mhm.
send one of their own to have this, game changing power. I thought that was a cool twist on it. And it did feel like he let everybody know, like, this is game changing. Sort of everyone was aware that it was going to be a big thing, which I think was good. Like, it felt like they weren't totally blindsided by how big it was,
Mhm.
right?
It allowed the players to speculate about what they thought it was because they were emphasizing, or Jeff was emphasizing it was such a big deal, where we actually see
Right.
Drea and even I think when Hai is strategizing before, they both are taking into account the fact that this could be a switcheroo where, the other group is actually the one that's safe. So they kind of had the somewhat ability to mentally prepare for the twist.
That being
Yeah,
said, you're still
yeah.
trying to make a Hot Pocket gourmet, right? You're still like, well, the twist itself is not a fantastic idea, but we added some things to maybe help with it. I definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
That it maybe went from an F to like a D minus, but I agree with Liana. It's still even less so to me the idea of like you're safe now, you're not safe. I don't know how I feel about like having only half the group not safe because I feel like
Mm.
that
Right.
it's really unfortunate, and we've seen it here twice in a manner of speaking. Last season, like Sydney seemed like she was in a fine place, but because of the particular configuration of people that she drew a rock with and then got reversed, she all of a sudden was in the firing line. Same thing with Lydia here. Lydia herself professed that like she probably was not going to be your prototypical merge boo necessarily, but like because she was up against a very certain group of people, because like Chanel
Yes.
was safe because Tori had won immunity, but I guess on the other hand, like, does that help things? Because then it's less
Right.
predictable stuff and it's more
Mm.
exciting things. I'm not entirely sure. To go back to your point, Mary, I was obsessed with Jeff talking about Applebee, specifically about the fact that, like, we do add copy sometimes. And, like, there's the must read text. I feel like Jeff's must read text
Right.
included like the entire front page menu. Like, he went copiously through at least 5 different items that they had
I
to eat.
know. He described the wings as crispy on the outside, tender on the inside. And I really love any kind of insight I can glean into Jeff's, and this came up later in the episode too, into Jeff's like personal preferences, or his
Mm.
or his or what does he like from Applebee's? And
Uh-huh.
I feel like he sounds like a wingman to me. He
Mm.
loves crisp on the outside, tender on the inside. He really, so I like cling on to anything Jeff says for any sort of like, what do you like, Jeff? Like, how can I get to know you better? And this came up later in the episode when he shared this fact about himself that he moved in high school from Wichita to Seattle. And I was like, I, Jeff, this is like a formative part of his youth. Anyway, but yes, I really loved that moment of him describing the food from Applebee's, and I could watch it forever.
Do you feel like so the whole story, I was also fascinated by his Wichita to
I
Seattle
mean, we
move
all were, because
story.
Jeff Probst as a host, like, say what you want to about the way he does the report at Tribal Council, but like he very much keeps himself out of it.
Oh
Right.
yes,
Right.
it's
Right.
yes,
But he decides
very
in this
much.
moment, like, let me pull a Tyra. Let me be like, this reminds me of when I moved schools. When I went from high school, no, not you, High. I wasn't in school with you, to become essentially a different person. It was just odd, wild personalization.
I know. Yes, it
Maybe
really.
maybe he was like a burger guy before and now he's a wings guy, and that was part of that different version of himself. It's all tied back into the food.
Yes, it all goes back to
Mhm.
Applebee's, as everything does.
Yeah, in
Um,
life.
in life, everything goes back to Applebee's.
Um,
Yeah.
well, okay, I actually I do wanna, like, step back 1 sec to the twist again because, like, hearing you guys talk about it, what it sounds like to me is, as a viewer, what is your tolerance for luck? And
Mm.
it to me, it's
Yes,
like
that's
a
a great
balance
point.
of agency to luck. Because Mike, what you're saying is, well, more of it was luck for Lydia to end up in the situation or for Sydney to end up in the situation versus agency. And I think that as a viewer, you kind of make a decision of how much you want these randomness or luck to play into how the game unfolds.
Yeah. Yeah, that's such a great point. I personally I like I like my luck like I like my cinnamon. Oh, just a sprinkling. You don't want a spoonful of cinnamon,
No,
Right.
that's a whole challenge around that.
that's a whole challenge. Yeah, there's a whole challenge. Um, so I like a little bit of luck, like the luck of finding an idol or finding an idol clue, or these things that have really been baked into the fabric of the game. I think are fun, and they inform the game and inform behavior in a way that's not drastic. Um, I will always prefer watching people negotiate a situation using their wit and their social prowess alone. Like I always think that's so fascinating, and that's part of what we love, is like watching these people um navigate these relationships without any additional help. What does that look like?
Mhm.
So yeah, I that's my luck tolerance. I just a dash, just a
Yeah.
smooch.
Yeah, kiss it.
Just a
I think
kiss.
to me, I think what also is tough about this is, it's almost distinct to me from the thing that they did last season, and we'll probably do this season as well, right? The let's randomly divide into two groups, and one group votes out this person, one group votes out this person, like the Evie and Nasir stuff. And that can be tough as well, right? Because if you get a
Right.
bad draw of people, then like that sucks. I think my bigger issue with this is that it's at the merge, right? It's
Right.
that what I like about just a straight up merge vote is you don't know these people. You're just getting to know them. Like, let's
Yes,
suss out the
totally.
dynamics with no frills, with nothing zhuzhed on
Yes.
top of it, and like let's see where the chips fall. And it might be more straightforward. It might be like let's dump all our votes onto one person, but at least like you have a general sense as to who the other people are. Now, granted, again, that did sort of happen and put things into like really a hyper focus with only a few people being safe, but I prefer it to be a bit more natural of just a regular vote, and then maybe do this thing like a couple of votes from now. So that way, at least things are figured out a bit more rather than just having
Right.
so much new all at once.
Or even make it yes, and or even have the hourglass going back in time. uh, and this has just occurred to me, but have that happen with one player, like reverse the outcome of like an individual immunity challenge.
Mm.
I wonder, I mean, I don't know how that would look, but it does feel like it gives such it tilts the scales so intensely that it does feel like we can't. But maybe the other side of that is it does like force working relationships to happen faster than maybe they would have if there had not been
Right.
that twist to it.
Hmm. Okay, what if and the hourglass is something that you somehow get this advantage and it allows you to turn back time, but you can pick and choose whenever you want to use it.
Yeah, like a
Oh, that's
an advantage
interesting.
proper of like, yeah,
Yeah,
you can use it in the
Yeah.
next like
I like
3 rounds or
that.
something.
Yeah, up to
So it's
final whatever.
like a tiny hourglass. It's like one you
Like a
can
little
put in your pocket. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
You
it's
can
just a
carry it
baby.
around.
Well, yeah, because otherwise, like, you're gonna have to bring it to every challenge, right? So when you want to use it, like,
Your big hourglass.
I think that's interesting. That's a fun. Let's make that hourglass mobile. Let's like get it on the road.
yeah, let's do like the
Mhm.
pocket games version, right? Like, oh,
Yeah.
for the car.
Yes,
Oh,
for the
do you
car.
is it a tiny hammer also then? Yeah, right?
Cute. Yes.
You could put them on a necklace where both of them are like the two little charms on the necklace, and then
And then you're like,
yeah.
And just like a little 1 grain of sand comes out.
Yeah.
I did love Roxroy being like, hey, Jeff, does this thing actually measure an hour? Because I've counted it out. Like, of all the things, Roxroy spent his time sitting there
Roxroy.
for a full hour being like, 1,000, 1,000.
He simultaneously he made me cry. Him talking
Mm.
about like taking in these views of Fiji, and how he's potentially losing his eyesight. Like it was such a moving moment of him really soaking this moment in and being so grateful for this beautiful planet. Um, and then undercutting it with talking about his nagging wife. And then yes, oh, it really made me laugh. He's so funny.
Well, you know what I realized? Like, I came to this realization while I was watching the episode. Roxroy is the personification of the classic sitcom husband. I just realized this,
Oh,
right? Like,
funny.
oh, my wife's
Yes.
nagging me all the time. He's constantly
Oh, my
complaining about the
wife.
kids, right?
Yeah.
Always having to work all the time, but also like grousing about it, like very almost
Yeah.
like Hank Hill-esque, very like old school of like this thing isn't right. We shouldn't be doing it this way. That's what I've realized. He sort of is like that personification of that trope finally stepping, I guess not out of the screen because he's still on the screen, but like actually brought out in the form of this one person.
Yes, yes. And oh, you know what I also love about Roxroy is that he's very self-aware. Like hearing him talk about how he's a predictable player. And he's aware that that makes him an asset to people. And I think that I feel like I haven't really seen that before a a player who is reliably predictable saying this is what I bring to the table is like I'm predictable. You can rely on me. And I thought that was cool.
Yeah, and like here's why it's a good thing. I
Yeah.
mean, and we see that reflected with Drea, although Drea's decision making also is like questionable at times, but she included Roxroy in the alliance and not Romeo. Even though we've been set up previously to see her relationship with Romeo, it was actually
Right.
Roxroy who she pulled into the 8.
But did she? Because Roxroy
Roxroy, I don't
didn't
know what
vote.
Roxroy.
But then
with
he didn't
them.
vote. Yeah,
He
that I
voted
don't know.
for Lindsay, which sounds like the way
Lindsay.
that you spell her name if she was like born in 2003 and like her parents were trying to make her cool of like Lynze. But I don't have no idea what
I
was happening
know.
there. I
I'm
mean, we had
so curious.
so it was what I think it was like 6-2 to 2-1 or something like that. Some
Yes.
scattered vote.
And
Yep.
they kept talking about the 8 and in the initial conversations of the 8. And let me know if I'm skipping ahead and you
I
want
mean,
to.
listen, we are all over the place.
We're all over the
Mhm.
place. Okay, great. In the initial conversation of the 8, it was Drea was like, I can pull in Roxroy. And then High like kind of summarized, okay, this is the 8. But
Mhm.
then Roxroy wasn't in the vote, but Marianne was. If I remember how the votes
Yeah,
played
you're right.
out.
Because the
Mhm.
the six Lydia votes were Drea, High, Jonathan, Lindsay, Marianne, and Mike. And I would imagine like I don't know if there were because like Tori and Chanel voted Jonathan. I don't know if they were brought in to like throw a couple of votes onto Jonathan. You know, I talked with Lydia about why she voted Marianne, and it seemed like from her perspective, right, in her configuration of the 8,
Yeah.
the plan was like split votes between Jonathan and Marianne, and Romeo did that as
Oh,
well. So, like, I
right.
don't know if they were
Mm.
both left out of the play. I guess the question is
Right.
like, was there a 6 plus Omer who determined this vote, and everyone else thought it was another plan and just voted that way?
Right. There's a couple different versions of the 8 happening.
Yeah, it's interesting because when I went back to look at it only being 6-2-2-1, if Mike and High had not voted for Lydia and they had instead put their votes on either Jonathan or Marianne, it would have been a 4-4-2-1, which would have made a
Whoa.
tie and a revote situation, which I think would have been really interesting. So
Yeah.
that it's just like it's so fascinating to me that High, who would be willing to go to Rocks for Lydia, then didn't do the same thing. I don't know, maybe he feels like grass
Fascinating.
is greener with this new group or something like that.
Well, and also Mike said at the beginning of the episode, we see them coming back from that tribal, and Mike's like, I would take a bullet for Lydia
Yes!
and High. And then at the end of the
So
episode, he's like,
dramatic.
bye, Lydia.
He's like, whoops, sorry, bang.
Yeah. Yes, it is so interesting. I mean, I cannot wait for this next episode to hear High talk us through that, because he also said this sort of this thing before they went to tribal where he was like, this is the moment where good players fold and great players um how did he put it, great players triumph, or it was
Yeah, it's like
something like that.
prevail or persevere or
Prevail.
something
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah. And so I can't wait to hear his logic with that.
It is
um
really interesting. I think it might just have been a matter to him of like when you're on a small tribe and he was very much in a position where like his vote was a vote that mattered, he was able to sort of stand his ground and be
yeah,
like, no, 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 Lydia must not go. And
yeah,
then here on this larger tribe, right, when you're one of 11 people voting and you have several people approaching you being like, it's Lydia, it's a lot harder to stand against that tide,
Totally.
that hide, if
And
you
you don't
will.
want to stand out by standing up against it. Yes,
Exactly.
yes.
To be like,
I
no,
totally
no,
get
no,
that.
especially as a first impression too,
Oh my
right?
gosh, yeah.
But it should be
Yeah.
noted that like he does approach Jonathan being like, I told Lydia I would go to rocks for her. I say the same thing to you. If I'm Jonathan, I'm like, I don't know now. I saw what happened to that last
Yes,
time.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Right. And oh gosh. I really loved watching the different sort of the drivers in the group kind of emerge and try to steer the vote. I thought that was so fun to watch and so interesting. And
Yeah, that's the thing. It's a lot of there because there's been like a lot of alphas on each one of these tribes, and you
totally.
always wonder what happens. Like we saw this last season with like how do Evie, Shan, and Deshawn come together, and that was a little cataclysmic. And it was interesting to watch. It seems like from our perspective, Drea, and probably Jonathan or maybe even Omer, I guess, come together to see like, okay, are they going to work together or do they, want to cut each
Yeah.
other?
Yeah.
This is really interesting because I think that the move to save Marianne, I think, really puts Orange in this power position, because if the 8 is real,
Totally.
then theoretically there's people from blue, green, and orange that can all go. And they should have just voted out Marianne, theoretically, if the Orange tribe was willing to sort of merge into this group of 8. But we didn't see that happen. And so I wonder if things are going to go back to status quo with Tori and Chanel being the next 2 targets, or if I was High or Drea, I would say, this is a red flag. The fact that they were not willing to let Marianne go, that's going to be an issue. It means that they're trying to stay Orange strong, and the 8 is maybe not necessarily a real thing, or they're going to keep Marianne along the way so then they can take control later on. So that would be like major red flags to me, but I don't know. We'll see.
Red flag emoji, red flag emoji, red flag
Right?
emoji.
Yes, red flag emojis abound. I also like. I do think it's actually the outcome of this twist where the more physically dominant players have all come together, and also all the players with all of the advantages have come together. Like the big threats at this point in the game all coming together. We would never see that. That feels like such a a rare thing that happens. But I don't think there's any way that this 8 will stay together beyond a vote or 2. Like I feel like it's already splintering, but I think that there's machinations happening and an awareness of the threat level of the people around them. It just feels like there's no way that they don't go after each other.
Oh yeah, completely.
Yeah.
I mean, look no further than like Survivor David versus Goliath, right? Where initially you have this group of Davids say, we have all these powers, let's put them together and start taking out Goliaths. And that works to a certain extent. But Survivor, you naturally get hungry, and not just for Applebee's. And you're like, but I don't want to go to the 5 with these people. So like, let's start taking them out. I very much get a sense of that here, that I think you could very easily look at the other people and be like, they have an idol. I want to get rid of that before they use it against me. What I find so interesting is the bald-faced lies going on here, where they're like, oh, I have an idol and I don't think anyone else knows about it. And Liana, you and I talked last week that we're fairly sure everyone, with the exception of maybe Tori and Roxroy, know about the idol. So I don't know why everyone's trying to put up a front of like, nope, nobody else knows about this thing. It's just the 3 of us.
Yes, that is interesting, because also, even if you didn't know specifically who had the idol, I mean, the clue itself was shared with so many people that you would know the phrases. If you heard you would know who has them.
Yeah. Well, and
right?
Mike had extensive conversations with his entire tribe about whether he should or should not say his phrase. So that's very much out in the open. And I'm pretty sure
Marianne shared her,
Yes.
like she has been so open and sharing about her advantages with her tribe. So
Exactly.
and I thought Omer's logic there was interesting, where he was like, because the vote was initially for Marianne, or that was the discussion, and then Omer saying, I'm gonna need that firepower that Marianne has. And so I was, because I guess I would think like, oh my gosh, she has a lot of power. Maybe we should try to blindside her and like get that firepower out of the game. But Omer's like, no, 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 I can. This is like this is my army.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's interesting.
Yeah,
I do feel like, and the editing has been really great this season. I do
yeah,
feel like there's something missing with that, because I feel like Omer would only make that decision if he truly believed like I have control over her, right? That like I have a working relationship
right,
with her.
right,
And
yeah,
we haven't necessarily see that. So I think
yes,
that's what,
right,
and I think that's what's setting us up for is, I think we're looking at the classic tale of the bunny in the mailbox, and you reach into the mailbox and the bunny bites your hand. I think
Mm.
that Marianne is going to eventually turn on the Takus, that they sort of lament the
yeah,
decision of keeping her around, because a lot of like the
yep,
scenes we've seen from Taku, right, as of late, is like Marianne's annoying us. Marianne is someone who we don't necessarily gel well with. She nearly went at the tribal council that they went to. So I feel like that's what we're being set up
right.
for.
And
Mhm.
also, we're seeing Marianne, be such a savvy social player. We're seeing her have all these conversations with all these people, um, and really bonding with people. Like she and Romeo seem to
Mhm.
strike up a connection. So yes, I think Marianne. They yes, they might lament that they didn't get her out when they had the chance, because I think she's quite savvy. She can move around a bit.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, and I do wonder if these people who were left out of the vote are going to come together. You know, if
Mm.
Right.
Romeo and Tori and Chanel and Roxroy and oh no, not Roxroy. I want to know
Well,
what happened with
maybe. We don't
Roxroy.
know.
Yeah.
Maybe, um, but yes, if they're all going to come together and try to shake things up a bit.
Yeah,
Okay.
Marianne strikes me as also the type of person that is not the biggest threat on everybody's list. Not that she's not a threat, it's that other people don't perceive her as a threat. And so now that she's sort of been able to make it through what should have been the quote unquote easy vote, they weren't talking about it like, oh, well, Marianne's a threat, we have to get her out. It was like, well, she's not one of us, so we'll get her out. She's not a strong player, so we'll get her out. And then that
Yeah.
type of person, especially if they have that more subtle social game, is able to just quietly work in the background. And if she can make it deep and isn't targeted by that big group, could do some real damage with her firepower or her arsenal, as
Yes.
Omer was saying.
Yes. That's her. Yes, totally. She really can.
Let me throw out a question here to that
Yeah.
point about like to Mary's thing about, should the ones on the outside come together? Will Tori and Roxroy ever vote together again for the rest of the season? Thumbs up or thumbs down?
There's no way.
I think definitely no way. It was so funny, that scene where she's like trying to get information from him. He's not. They sounded like speaking of like a sitcom couple, they
Mhm.
sounded like they have been in known each other for decades and are so comfortable fighting with each other. It was so funny to me. But no, I don't think there's any way. I think Roxroy, he strikes me as somebody who's like uh super loyal, but if he doesn't trust you or he finds you shifty, he's not you're you're
Mhm.
you're not getting back in those good graces. Not that he doesn't have like um forgiveness or anything, but it just feels like too many things have happened with Tori where he wouldn't
Mhm.
trust her.
Well, and then look no further than when Roxroy announces that he smashes the hourglass, and
Oh, let's
Tori
go further.
was
Let's
like,
go further.
we gave that to we gave you
Yeah,
that power.
that was a gift.
Yeah, so how
That
dare you
was
use that gift?
And listen, that was some fast spin on Tori's part.
Yeah.
It in a way where I was like, wow, I gotta give her props. That was like, what a way to like take a moment and be like, and that was intentional. Like I loved it.
Mhm.
I thought it was such a great
And
moment
and
of
That
her
then
was
being
so
like, let
funny.
me
and
spin this.
and then she has the gall to like after she wins be like, "Oh, I'm okay. I thank you. Thank you for
I
like this is
know.
see Roxroy, this is what you do. You take the opportunity. This is a gift actually."
It's
It was
very,
so
yes,
so
very, she's
good.
such a great political moment for her, like have like working the politics of that exchange. It's so funny.
All right, well, let's
Yeah.
start getting into some stuff, our usual fare here on the B&B. Let's start with talking about the preseason predictions for our boot here in Lydia, who now this is really interesting because I haven't thought about a player in a while, Liana, that falls under this category of like, I thought she was good on the show. You
Yeah,
had
me
that really nice
too.
moment last time, but I think her online footprint absolutely supersedes the time that she had on the show. I don't know. Can you think of like someone in recent memory who has similarly had that type of reputation?
I know people who have made people upset on social media after the game or during the game. I don't think we rarely see it the other way around, where the player was not really shown on the show, but then has such a strong social media presence. I mean, when I saw that her Twitter name was Lydia Chlamydia, it's like, okay, I'm in. I'm done. I'm here for this.
Yes. Oh, she's incredible. She's so funny. And I also she also strikes me as somebody who like people would just socially love to be around her. Like I'm sure
Mhm.
she made friends with everybody out there. But that moment with Lydia, I've so related to her in this moment when Chanel was like, "So what were you guys talking about?" And Lydia was like, oh gosh, Roxroy, and I like and Chanel, of course, like sniffed it out, but I like so related to Lydia in that moment of how do you really have to, I guess, come, and I would love to hear what you all think about this. You have to come prepared for any person to approach you about any conversation, and you have to have a story ready for that so
Mhm.
Oh
that
yeah.
you don't come off as like not landing on something, because I would, there's no, if Chanel had come up to me and be like, what were you talking about? I'd be like, oh my god, fish. Can you believe fish?
Can
There's so
you
many
believe
fish. Oh my god.
Wow.
Oh, anyway, I'm tired. I gotta go to bed.
Well,
Like
I mean, you're doing a little an
what I would
approximation
do.
of like from the edited perspective, right? What that
Right.
group was doing. Because when Chanel walked up, they're like,
Yes, yes. Oh, that's
"Okay, I'm gonna go crabbing now. Goodbye."
Oh my god.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
that was so, yeah, because we saw it multiple times, right? We saw it with the conversation with Lydia that you're talking about, Mary, and then we
Yeah.
also saw it with the group when she came up to the group. And the second time, I only noticed this on the rewatch, but Hai goes, "We have to stay and talk because last time we all left." And he's
And then they
trying to
didn't.
talk, and they all just go "Poosh," completely
It's
scatter.
also, that edit was so interesting to me because they came, it was like they really let a silence happen when
Yeah.
Chanel first
Yeah.
came up. And I feel like what I was watching with Chanel, I was like, her wheels are turning. She's like taking all this in and trying to
Mhm.
like figure out what she just walked into. And everyone's just standing there like, yeah. Like no one is jumping in, and then they all scatter. And it's like,
Mhm.
Yeah.
oh yes, if I were Chanel, I'd be like, oh no.
Well,
Yes.
again, to go back to the improv thing, it is very much that moment when
Yeah,
everyone's on the back wall and they have a suggestion,
that's
and
right.
you're just waiting for someone to step out and start the
Someone
scene.
initiate a scene. Someone,
And
and
yeah, and
you
Hyde
have
tried
to.
to, and then they're just
And
like,
I tried to, and then he got no support from the back line, and that's really tough because I have, and that's happened to me before where I've been in an improv show, and it's like, oh, we do our opening, or we get the suggestion, everyone steps back, no one has an idea. The silence, it feels like 1 second lasts
Yeah.
25 years. It's like the most heavy silence. And then I have multiple times just been like, I have no idea, but I'm just going to step out, and I might die. Like, and no one's like, you just trust that someone's going to come out and help you, but no one did in that moment for High. It's tough.
Yeah, that's so tough. It's interesting because sometimes former players have talked about, "Oh, I had a feeling. I had a feeling it was me. I had a feeling it
Yeah.
was me." It was like, okay, if it's things like this, I can understand why you had that feeling.
well, that's the thing is
Yes.
that what I love about this cast is they are terrible at keeping secrets. Like, do not give any of them any nuclear codes
No,
because, like, then the planet
everyone's
is doomed.
sharing. Yes. Yes, it's so true. Oh my
But
gosh.
then, like, when they try not to, like, when I talked with several people who played the shot in the dark, it's because, like, they would sit there and someone's like, oh boy, I'm really gonna miss Marianne. Too bad we have to vote her out tonight. And they're like, I see through your third grade performance here.
Yeah.
This is clearly me. It's clearly me tonight.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. I thought that that was such a theme. That's been a theme I feel like in this new era, but especially in this episode is and it's always been true in Survivor is whoever is getting the information has the power. Like the
Yeah.
more information you have, the more power you have. But there's an additional step to that, of course, which is it's what you then do with that
Hmm.
information, how you take that information and either just hold it or take it and use it in the way that Omer did, of like seizing an opportunity that an information will, present to you. um but I definitely feel like the information is a heavy theme in this new era. It's like the sharing of information, the like the total openness of all these advantages that in seasons past would have been kept so secret. Yeah,
Well, we know knowledge is power, so
that's what they say.
that's what they say.
That's what they say, and it really is. And then so it's knowledge is power, and then how do I leverage that knowledge
Hmm.
to get more power?
Knowledge is power is just the beginning.
That's just the beginning, baby. That's just the beginning.
So, Liana, when it came to Lydia, because Lydia was certainly, I
Hmm.
think, a personality in a lot of the preseason between the interviews and like her questionnaire and everything. But how did you think she was going to do in the preseason?
Okay, so I did have Lydia being pre-jury,
Oh, nice.
but I said that with her Gen Z energy, Lydia was such a fun character on the show and takes over the confessional game once Daniel leaves. So that didn't
Okay,
happen.
that covered one episode.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And then I said, unfortunately, she was perceived as weak in challenges by her tribe and would be the second boot after Daniel was on left on green, just missing the jury. And I said that she would have a segment on the show where she teaches the tribe all about all things TikTok, which Mike does not like, thinking it's a waste of time. I said that Lydia does not play her shot in the dark. Her ally was Chanel and her enemy was Mike.
Interesting. I mean, I could
Oh,
imagine a segment, right, where Mike's like, what is this, clock? Why are you talking about
Yeah.
clock so much? There's no clocks here.
oh God. Mike is so funny. And Mike is a very fluid social player. My goodness, he's
Hmm.
making
Yeah.
connections with everybody.
What I
Yeah.
find it
Yeah.
so interesting that we had, again, one of the reasons why I love this 2-hour episode is because we got to see so many really great personal connections that, again, I feel like maybe unlike season 41, season 42 feel more naturally shoehorned in. Where, like, yes, there is a lot of just like front loaded content, but it feels more like it naturally comes up at camp more so than like, let me sit down and talk to you about this. And for some reason, I guess it's there's a reason why we have these conversations with Jonathan, with Omer, that the other person in the conversation is Mike. That there's just something about
Yes.
him that
Hmm.
allows people to be like, yeah, you know what, I can tell you my life story, which is so odd because you would imagine that that would be more fitting for, I don't know, the therapist instead of the retired firefighter.
Right. Right. Yes. I feel like there's something about Mike where he strikes me as it's so non-judgmental. Like I think it really pulls people in where he finds he loves to hear people. It sounds like he loves to hear their stories, and then he finds things within those stories to connect to himself. And yeah, it strikes me as someone who welcomes those conversations. um yeah, someone else whose energy I really love is Drea. I think Drea has she's so um calm and in control of her. She never seems like frazzled
Hmm.
or thrown in any way. And I feel like if I were out there, my energy would be the exact opposite. But I would be so drawn to Drea. I'd be like, okay, Drea knows what's going on. Drea's calm. Drea, like I can really trust Drea. And it's interesting to think about the qualities of people that do, even without having a conversation with them, that do make you inherently trust them, like
Hmm.
right off the bat. And that's so important in the merge when you're just meeting these people for the first time.
Hmm. Yeah,
Those qualities are so
absolutely.
important.
All right. So I, as people know, ran a Brant Steel simulator. I left things. I sprinkled the whole canister of cinnamon onto this. I put all luck into my
Oh my God.
predictions this
Okay.
season. So I had Lydia making the jury.
Okay.
I said that she made quick bonds with people like Hai and Daniel. She has a major meltdown in the pre-merge and almost quits the game, but she decides to stay. And
Wow.
essentially, the post-merge is her constantly being in the minority of votes, that like her allies consistently leave her out of plans. And she gets voted out when Mike turns on her to grab the loose players, seeing her as a threat. Her closest ally was Daniel, and her worst enemy was also Mike. So I guess we were
Okay.
really talking like about a generational
Wow.
gap on
Yeah.
bocce here.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I mean, she definitely, I think there's a lot of nuggets there being left out of the vote because her sort of allies either don't trust her, don't want her there. I mean, that happened with the first vote, right? Where it was like
Yep.
her theoretical allies of Chanel and Daniel. And then it happened here, her theoretical allies of Hai and Mike. So, does seem like a pattern.
Yeah. Right. I'm so bummed about I would be bummed about and have been bummed about any of these players going.
That was my thing as well. When I was seeing
Oh.
like who was safe and who was not safe, I'm like, but I don't
I
really want to lose any of
know.
them.
Mm-hmm.
Want to lose any of them. And I was curious. I listened to the know-it-alls, and I think Steven had a great point where he was saying with Hai and Lydia were so close, and that was such a known pair that maybe it does make sense for them to for Hai to then be like, oh, I need to like, you know, not be a part of a strong pair within this group to make myself less of a target. But yeah, I was really excited to see what sort of strategic moves Lydia was going to make post merge.
Yeah, it is interesting because I do feel like, at least from like what we saw on the show, I'm not sure, and I don't know if it was an age thing, if it was like just the way she compared herself to others. Like there wasn't too much gaming we saw from her
Right.
perspective. The only thing we really saw was like she was the one to really put out Jonathan's name, which I think does make sense in many ways. And I'm very surprised that I guess this group was able to say, yeah, we'll start with Jonathan. And then they sort of moved away to Marianne and then like back to Jonathan, but then ended on
Yeah.
Lydia at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
But I do maybe more time would have helped it. But she seemed to me like someone who built relationships first and then maybe made decisions based on that rather than in
Yeah.
comparison to someone like Hai, who's like, all right, now it's time to game. I can't wait. I can't just sit back and, bank bonds with people. I actually have to weaponize these things.
Yes, and also people were after Lydia, but pre-merge too. Like
Yeah.
her try, like she was like she's had her name out there quite a bit, and so I would imagine that you definitely want to like not put yourself out there and draw more attention to yourself in that case.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, so Mary, you're the one that holds the hourglass right now. You get to figure out between Liana and myself / the Brand Steel, who had the better finger on the pulse of how
Oh my
Lydia would do.
gosh. Okay. Well, first of all, is my hourglass tiny or big?
Oh, it can be whatever size you want it to be.
Okay. I want mine to be tiny.
Yay.
Okay.
Yay. Okay. Well, I mean, you both had some overlapping theories. I think I'm gonna have to go with Liana. I feel like her prediction, it was correct. She did go out pre-merge.
Yeah.
So,
Take that simulation. Yeah,
the
it's not just saying like ding, ding, ding.
There you go. The robots are just being really slaughtered here. I was also just thinking, like, this is how stupid my mind is. I just kept thinking for the past few minutes, like, high and dry, high Andrea. Is that a thing? I don't know if that's a thing.
Hydrangea.
Okay.
Hydrated.
Let's workshop
Hydrate.
this. Yes. Yes, I think that's going to be a very powerful alliance for sure.
Mhm.
Those two.
That's the thing, though. I don't. Yeah, like they on paper would do so well for each other, but I
Yes.
feel like they're both such alphas, to use a certain term, that like I don't
Right.
know if they'll want to work
Right.
together for very long.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes.
we'll see. There was one conversation when Hai was trying to flip the vote back to Marianne, where Drea was it's so subtle, but Drea's just kind of looking at him being like, because Hai is trying to say, well, what's happening? She's
I
just like,
remember that.
like, I don't know. So I don't know. There could be some conflict there, but I would love in my fanfic for them to work together.
That's what I love about Drea too. To your point, Mary is like she is very social, but she is so straightforward. I
Yes.
loved the straight man stuff going on at tribal council, right? With Marianne being
That's
like,
amazing.
"Oh, blah blah blah," and Drea's like, "I disagree," and she's like, "No, no, but we're on the same page." She's like, "No, we're not. We're not at all." Like
I
it's
love it.
so fun.
It was incredible, and I would so I even wrote down what Marianne said initially when she like made this observation, and Jeff asked what Drea thought, and Drea said the thing, and Drea's like, I disagree, and then Marianne goes, I was like, oh God, I would do the exact same thing. Marianne was like, okay, that's fine. I was like, it's like neutralize any conflict as soon as get on the same page ASAP. It almost doesn't even matter the content of what we're talking about. From my perspective, I'd be like, how can I make this okay for everybody right away?
No, you're right. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. But yes, I love how straightforward she is. She's being so smart with her read of people and who she shares information with. Like she has the most in her. She has the most advantages of anyone, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's got the amulet. She's got an extra
Yeah.
vote, and she has an idol.
Yeah. Ugh. Yes, she's being so smart. The fact that she's able to like have people know about all of these things, except for me. Well, no, like Hai knows about the amulet, but and still not have her name rise to the top of the list it really speaks to how well she's playing this.
Okay, so I want to switch gears a little bit, and we've sort of touched on some of these things, but I want to play our game this week. Roxroy said it's the devil you do versus the devil you don't, but I think
which doesn't make any sense.
No, it's combining two phrases.
He cut out several words. Where he cut out the word no. In fact, knowledge is not power here. Where he said it's the devil you do versus the devil you don't.
Yes, or you're damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Oh, that's what it is. Yeah, because I was like, wait, who's doing the devil? What?
Yeah, wait, what?
Huh?
What does this mean? Well, for us, the devil's in the details. So that's the game that we're going to be playing today. And I could also thought about calling this game just dudes doing weird stuff. It's like more than 50% Roxroy content that we'll be talking about, and then a little bit of Mike, a little bit of Jonathan in there. So essentially the way that this is going to work is I'm going to ask you a question about something that happened in the episode. I will give you the multiple choice answers, and you will try to guess what is the thing that actually happened. Okay. And so the whole concept is that these are things that maybe were more subtle or, maybe not as obvious. But I'm really excited to get into this game.
Woo!
All right, let's see. Okay. We're going to go, listen, we're recording on Easter, right? Let's go Easter egg hunting. Find some things that happen in the background.
That's right.
Love it.
Okay. So Mike, we're going to start. First question is for you.
Okay.
So what does Roxroy say while he's collecting resources for his shelter? And this is on exile. Okay. Does he say A, organic cordage? Nice. Does he say B, all natural fiber? Let's go. C, biological cable? Wow. Or D, fresh rope? Fabulous.
Okay, I'm obsessed with the terms biological cable and also fresh rope. Fresh rope. Fresh rope sounds like a euphemism for like some sort of strain of weed. Like, let me get that fresh rope.
Get an ounce of fresh rope.
Let me get let me get a gram of that fresh rope. All right, so I know it's not those first two. I want to say, what was the first one? Natural cord?
It was cordage? Organic cordage. Nice. Or all natural fiber. Let's go.
I feel like the name, like the word cordage was in my head for whatever reason, because I remember like being like, wait, what did he say? And rewinding it a couple times. So I think it was organic cordage. Nice.
All right. So yes, Mike, that is correct. 1 point for you here.
I mean, it's also such a weird thing to say. It's like if you told an alien, like, okay, put you in this setting and pretend to be a human stranded in the wilderness. They're like, oh, organic cordage. Nice.
Yeah.
Organic cordage.
Cordage.
Nice.
Yeah, that was the first moment I was like, that's weird. I'm going to start paying attention to Roxroy. There's some weird stuff here.
Do you think he said
For
that
sure.
on his tribe as well? Like, all right, everyone, let's go get some organic cordage. And they're like, what the hell is he talking
Everyone
about?
go find as much organic cordage as you can find. If it's not organic, I don't want to see it.
Right? None of this synthetic crap, all right?
Yeah, none of that
No
here.
GMOs in my cordage. Thank you very much.
If you bring me a bungee, you're out.
All right. We're staying on the Roxroy train. Mary, this question is for you. When Roxroy gets to the top of the hill on his Exile Island experience, he says what 2 phrases? A, holy Toledo, gee whiz. B, holy moly, Jiminy Crickets. C, holy mackerel, gee willikers. Or D, holy cow, geez Louise.
Oh my gosh, I know this, of course, because it was such an interesting phrase to use. It was holy moly Jiminy Crickets.
That's right. Yes, that's correct. Holy moly,
Wow.
Jiminy Crickets.
Holy moly.
Wow, between
Jiminy
like
Crickets.
between the Disney Channel intro and now in reference to Jiminy Crickets, like, is CBS going to become absorbed by ABC sometime
Oh
soon,
my
or is this a
gosh.
merger happening?
We're all getting absorbed by Disney. It's just a matter of time.
We are all Disney.
We're
Yeah.
Holy moly, Jiminy Cricket! This is a man who has been
Jiminy
conditioned not to swear in front of like anyone for the past 7
Right.
years.
Yeah, apparently.
Right, totally. Yes, that's a great point.
Apparently.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Mike, we're sticking on the Roxroy phrase train. When Roxroy gets his fire going to cook his rice, what does he say? A, gotta love it. What? B, oh gosh, love that. Pop, pop. C, oh, phenomenal. Hot. Or D, amazeballs. Oh, yeah.
All right, well, I don't
My
think
God,
Roxroy
Liana, it's
would
amazing
genuinely
hearing you
use
say
the
all these.
word amazeballs. Like, I think
There's
even
no
he
way.
draws the lines of, oh, this is like, I can't imagine Roxroy sincerely saying, oh, amazeballs. I remember this one because of the sheer magnitude, if you will, of him
Mhm.
saying it. It was the one, I believe it's B, that had the one pop pop in there.
Yeah. The pop, pop.
Um,
Okay, I had so much fun writing these other
yes,
phrases.
you could tell. You're really selling. Your delivery.
This is like if you were
beautiful.
creating like t-shirts to sell in discount stores, and you're like, well, I can't say holy moly Jiminy Cricket. How about
Mhm.
like wowie kazowie, wooey wow wow? And
Yeah.
some people would just
Yes.
think it's the same thing.
Yeah, it's a knockoff. It's a knockoff brand, Roxroy. Okay, Mary.
Stone Steve.
Yeah. More Roxroy. What does he
Yes.
say while he's cooking his rice on Exile Island?
Mhm.
Is it, ooh la la, time for some rice? Hip hip hooray, time for some
No,
rice.
not hip hip hooray.
Yippee-ki-yay, time for some rice. Or
Yippee-ki-yay.
yabba dabba doo, time
No,
for some
no,
rice.
It wasn't yabba dabba doo, because I think that would stop me in my tracks if I heard.
Yeah, I
him
mean
say
that would be really showing that it truly is a sitcom character brought to life.
he's Fred Flintstone. What was the first one? Ooh la la.
Okay, the first one was ooh la la,
Ooh la
time for
la.
some rice.
Hip,
Hip hip hooray, time for some rice. Or yippee-ki-yay, time for some rice.
It wasn't hip hip hooray. I think it was ooh la la.
Okay, so you narrowed it down to the correct
Oh,
answer and the
no.
incorrect answer, but unfortunately, it was
No.
yippee-ki-yay, time for
Ah.
some rice. Which
Wow.
That's just a famous phrase. Yippee ki
Yeah.
yay! Time for some rice.
If you remember,
we all
John
know.
McClane did bust in
Yes,
and
from
was
that
like,
movie.
oh, I'm so
Yep.
hungry. Yippee-ki-yay, time for some rice.
Yeah, that was actually the TV version, right? Was yippee-ki-yay, time for some rice, because they can't say.
Yeah, and then
That's
Roxroy was
right.
watching with his
So
children, so he didn't. We're like, I'm pretty sure he said that. I don't think
Yeah.
it was anything else.
that's how they
and-
learn the phrase.
I'm humiliated. I can't believe it.
Yippee-ki-yay, time for
Yippee-ki-yay,
some rice.
time for some rice. What?
You
Okay.
know, maybe it was Roxroy the Marianne the entire time of just saying random ass things of like,
Right.
oh yeah, I guess the phrase could have worked if it was yippee-ki-yay, time for some rice.
Oh, well, that's why I was like, okay, then maybe he should have gotten the weird phrases, because clearly there's just a lot of they're not like long phrases. They're just, I don't want to call them expletives because clearly they're not curses, but they're these emphasizing
Yes.
statements that he puts at the end or the beginning of sentences, right? Holy moly,
Yes, like
Jiminy Cricket.
declarations. Like,
Yeah, pop
Mhm.
pop. Nice, yippee-ki-yay, organic. Well, no, not that one, but
Organic
you
cordage.
get what I'm saying. Yeah. All right, Mike, let's go back to you. When Jonathan finds a crab, what does Roxroy say? A, get out of town. Amazing. B, holy smokes, you did that. C, heavens to Betsy. That's
No.
a big boy.
That's a big
He did
boy.
not say heavens to Betsy, that's a big boy.
Or D, shut the front door. Oh, baby.
Well, I think C you stole from High's Tinder bio that he used when he was finding his eventual partner. That's a big boy. All right. Now I need the other three. Sorry,
Okay.
one more time. I was just so fixated on that's a big boy.
I'll leave out heavens to Betsy. That's a big boy, but I will say that's my favorite one I wrote. Okay. Is it A, get out of town? Amazing. B, holy smokes, you did that? Or D, shut the front door? Oh, baby.
Oh, those are also Roxroy. That's the sitcom he came out of. That's so Roxroy.
That's a
So
Roxroy, yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, so it's definitely not Heavens to Betsy. I
Mhm.
would say, I don't know if he would say you did that. Like that feels, I don't know. I don't know why I'm so caught up in like the I did a thing. That's more of like a millennial thing, and Roxroy is not a millennial, so I don't know if that is he would take that sort of logic. What was A again?
Get out of town. Amazing.
Oh, I think Roxroy would say get out of town, both sincerely and in cheek. So I'm gonna go with A.
Okay. So, similar to Mary, you narrowed it down to a correct and incorrect answer. And similar to Mary, you picked the wrong one. It was shut the front door. Oh, baby. Oh, baby.
Oh, baby.
Wow. Oh,
Baby.
baby.
Oh, baby. Shut the front door. Oh,
Oh
baby.
my gosh.
Yeah. I thought about including as one of my options, butter my butt and call me a biscuit, but I went with heavens to Betsy. That's a big
Roxroy
one.
would not. He say like butter my derriere.
That's right. But too offensive. Okay, so we're still at a score of 2-1. Mary, this next question is for you. And I promise this is the last Roxroy question. All right, what does Roxroy say to Marianne when the bug lands on him at tribal council?
Oh, yeah, the beetle.
Yeah, the beetle, the giant beetle that landed on him.
What does Roxroy say to Marianne? Okay.
Yes, when the bug lands on him.
Yep.
A, we're in his neighborhood. B, this is his neck of the woods. C, we're under his roof. Or D, welcome to his house.
This is like something you say when like Roxroy and the beetle like kick down your door as the new police cop.
Welcome to his house. I think well, I know it's definitely A, because I thought that's so nice to acknowledge, like, hey, this is his neighborhood. We're in his cul-de-sac. You know what I mean? Like, this is like we are having a party in his driveway. Is the implication. So I love that it's like, yes, neighborhood, right?
Yep, that's right. It was a block party. We're in his neighborhood. That's the correct phrase. Tied up 2-2.
I love the fact that like I could understand why you're like have that fine sort of like tree hugger attitude about it. I don't understand why he let it sit on him for so long, to the point where like they did such a fantastic thing where you know how they do like the dramatic cuts to the people waiting as the votes go in. It panned in on Roxroy's beetle as if like he had any voice in the matter, though maybe he did. Maybe the beetle's like, you should vote Lindsay. Here's how you spell it. And Roxroy's like, I believe you. I'm in your neighborhood. I follow your rules.
I was waiting for the talking head of the beetle, right? It's like beetle, zero advantages.
Yeah, could it be like a Mark the Chicken thing?
Yeah, I mean, I saw somebody that posted, it was a screenshot of, I think, Tiffany from last season with a beetle, I mean, okay, it's probably not exactly the same beetle, but in my Disney fantasy where we're all absorbed by Disney, it is the same beetle and it's a recurring character over multiple seasons.
I mean, look, like a lot of things from Survivor 41. Could they have copied the beetle as well?
I know. You never know.
We dropped a bug on the contestants, and we'll see how they react this time.
Oh my gosh! And Roxroy played that so cool. The
With
bug
the bug?
just yes, he was just like, yes.
This is an organic brooch.
I bought an organic brooch.
All right. Mike, let's go back to you. This question is there's a scene while Mike is having an emotional conversation with Jonathan on the beach. They're talking about how they're both blockhead big dudes. But what is between Mike's leg while they're having that conversation? I know it
His
sounds
penis.
dirty. It's not attached to him.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I assume that is also between his legs. But anyway, is it A, a rock, B, a stick, C, his shoes, or D, a folded pair of pants?
Oh,
Folded pair
wow.
of pants. So that would imply he had no pants on, which I'm pretty sure I would have seen and noticed if Mike was just sitting there having this heartfelt conversation, like in his briefs. So I don't think it's a pair of pants. Oh Lord! So not between a rock, a stick, and his shoes. So they were all
And a
sort of
hard
they were
place.
yeah, in a hard place. No, that was attached to his body. So I was thinking about okay, so they were sitting. I remember because they were like watching the sun set or the
Mhm.
sunrise. They're like, oh, let's put the game aside for a second. I'm going to imagine it was his shoes.
Okay. That is incorrect. It was a
Fuck.
stick standing straight up in the sand. He had like shoved it in. It was like sticking straight up.
Wow. I
I
mean,
don't
maybe
know
he was
why.
implying, according to Romeo, that's what happens to Mike every time he's around Jonathan. So
Oh no.
I
Oh,
love that, by the
no.
way.
Metaphor.
I don't know if that was in the quiz, but another fantastic moment of editing, right, is when Romeo's like, "We got to get rid of
Yeah.
Jonathan." Mike's so far up his ass. Cut to like Mike being like, "Oh, I love watching the sunrise view," and it literally pans over like a mockumentary to Romeo just like stewing in the corner watching it all
Yeah.
happen. It was incredible.
Incredible.
There were actually a lot of those little moments I just couldn't figure out how to write questions for, essentially. But yeah,
Yeah.
totally. It was super. Oh, it was so funny.
Yes, all of these cast members are having such great, like, I feel like I know all of them. Like, they're having such
Mhm.
Yeah.
wonderful character moments in this
Right.
show.
Mary,
Yes.
this question is for you. So we're sticking with the emotional conversations, but this time it's between Hai and Romeo, who are having their
Yes.
emotional conversation
Yes.
about being part of the LGBTQ plus community. But what does Omer do before he joins them? So there's a shot of the two of them, Hai and Romeo, talking, and Omer is
Right.
right in the middle, and he does one little action before he comes to join them
Oh,
to
okay,
continue
okay,
to
okay.
talk about the game. All right, so
Oh, okay.
is it A, does Omer point to himself and then to the jungle? Does he awkwardly wave while holding his shoes? Does he clap 3 times? Or does he lift a log of wood above his head?
I'm
Oh,
sorry, Omer. I don't know why
man.
I laughed so like haughtily at that idea.
God, I really, it's so interesting if he points at himself and then points to the jungle. I think, I think, and I was so uh, riveted by that conversation between between I and Romeo. I didn't notice this, but I feel like he would awkwardly wave while holding his shoes.
Yes, that is
Yes!
correct.
Nice.
Yes. That's awesome. All right, a point
Yay!
for you. Yeah, it was so fun. That was another moment when I was watching it for the first time. I was like, "Oh, that's so funny." That because it's a beautiful shot of the two of them having this emotional conversation. All of a sudden, it's just Omar like, like in the middle.
Yeah, it's so
Well,
Too
funny.
funny.
it's that awkward thing when like you're at a party and like two people have a very intense conversation, right? And you're just walking like, well, oh, okay. All right, I'm gonna
He's
go
like,
now.
"Can
Nice seeing
I
you.
join?" Or yeah, yeah.
Okay, so Mike, you have to get this question correct
Oh
if you want to
boy.
tie it up. Current score:
Alright.
Mary with 3 points, Mike with 2. Mike, when Jeff tells Lydia, Lindsay, Marianne, Hai, and Jonathan that one of them will be voted out tonight, this is after the immunity challenge, after Tori wins. What hand gesture does Jonathan do? No. Does he A, shrug his shoulders, B, wiggle his nose, C, smack his hand to his forehead, or D, bow and do prayer hands?
Oh, it's D. He does this
Is
every
it?
single freaking time and has been
I've
in my
never
notes
noticed
every week.
this.
From now on, look at every single time Jeff talks with Jonathan, he does like he's on the cover of an album, like a rap album in
Wow.
the 2000s, where he's like namaste. That's exactly what he does. He does it when he wins challenges. He does it when he loses challenges. I know this for a fact. This is exactly what he does.
Wow.
Okay, yes. How can I tell you you're wrong with that emphatic
Right.
energy? Yes, he does. He bows and does prayer hands.
Oh my gosh,
Like,
he has
what?
such reverence for Jeff, as do I.
Mr.
Yeah,
Jeff.
Lord, I
He
mean Jeff.
does. Oh, Lord
Yes.
Jeff, yes. I can't wait. I'm gonna watch for it every time now.
What are your thoughts on Jonathan in general, Mary? Because I know that we sort of had a theory
Yeah.
bandied about of like, is he, in the kingdom of the blind, the one-eyed man is king of like, is he just really impressive because of the people he's playing against, or is
Oh.
he truly worthy of like all the praise that he's doing in these
Oh,
challenges?
I think he's 1000% worthy of all the praise. Like, because he's single-handedly taking on some of the most difficult aspects of these challenges. I mean, I even wrote this down. I am in awe of Jonathan, and there was this moment which, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but in recent memory have not um heard this happen, where when Jonathan vaults over the Easter egg boulder, there is a wonderful motif, the Survivor motif swoops in, and it
Yep.
goes, "Hey, oh, yeah, yeah." Like it was like it's like the show was like, yes, this is like what we've always wanted in a challenge, is like someone to just give it their all in that way and dominate like that. And I feel like I've never heard that happen before. That theme song come in that specific way. But it felt like they really were underlining it.
I'm trying to think of other contestants who have had such a dramatic contrast between their success and challenges and the
Yes.
rest of
I mean,
everybody else.
well, I mean, like Aussie, I'm thinking
Yeah,
like South
Aussie's
Pacific
yeah,
is a
yeah,
good
for
example,
sure.
right? Of like just a dolphin. But to Mary's point, and I picked this up as well, because we don't get that song ever now because
Right.
there's no credits, there's no opening intro. Now we're getting it in the form of like
Right.
Jonathan's intro package of him
Mm.
just hopping up onto that ball. It was really interesting. And we see this in scripted stuff, right? Like if there is a musical motif written for a character that gets brought up, it is very odd that now the original Survivor theme is like Jonathan's anthem.
It's Jonathan's anthem. I know. God, it's yes. I think it's so. I think he's wonderful and phenomenal, and he's clearly very smart. And like the way he's approaching this game strategically, knowing he is this like dominant physical presence. I'm just yes, I'm blown away by him on all levels. Yeah. Go
Well,
ahead.
to the musical motif, that's why, Mike, because I also think of Ozzy, right? And
Yeah.
I think
Right.
of what Ozzy represents when it comes to Survivor. Of he is the Survivor boy, he is the Survivor golden boy. Like he represents so much about the show. And so if Jonathan or they're trying to see Jonathan in that similar light, it totally makes sense that his theme song would be the Survivor music.
Yeah, I mean, I
Yes.
cannot wait. I mean, we're not gonna have obviously like we're gonna do another right after the season reunion, but like if we did one that was the way they usually do, I would be so intrigued to see how many kids right are like, oh, I started swimming out in torrid waters to save people because you did, Jonathan. I started climbing up boulders because you did
Oh,
it,
no.
Jonathan. You really inspired me. I would not
Jonathan.
be surprised if like Jonathan becomes a favorite among a lot of the kids that were watching. Like he's so big and strong. He's like a
Totally.
superhero.
Totally. And
Yeah.
I think that everybody on this tribe too is like the commitment from everybody, the way Drea kept, going and the way like that team was working together to all, get over this boulder. I just love whenever I hear Jeff Probst say, "That's how you do it on Survivor." If I could have him say that to me as I go through my day and affirm my choices,
Mhm.
it would be amazing. This whole cast they're really so fully committed, and it's amazing to
Hmm.
see.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out how to write a question. How do I describe Mike on the boulder like that? Where
Yeah.
he's just like starfishing it on the boulder. I
Yeah, grab
couldn't
onto my
figure it
Yeah.
feet.
out
Yeah,
though.
grab onto my sneakers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he kicks Dre on the face.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
that
God.
was such a great moment. And yes, when Jeff says that in the challenge, I can't remember who it was to, but it's so inspirational. That's how you do it on Survivor. Well, speaking of Jeff, Mary, this is your final question. We're all tied up. You could win it here or send it into a tiebreaker that I will be making up on the fly.
Oh my
Nice.
gosh.
So now you've talked about this earlier in our recording, and it's all about the food reward, and it's all about Jeff. So what does Jeff say when he reveals the food reward for the challenge? The initial reveal that they will be having Applebee's. Okay. Did he say, A, it's good, it's big, it's Applebee's? Did he say B, it's hot, it's juicy, it's
No.
Applebee's?
No.
Did he say C, it's great, it's tasty, it's Applebee's? Or did he say D, it's food, it's here, it's Applebee's?
Listen, all of these are accurate as far as like
It is
describing
food,
Applebee's,
and it is
you know.
And it's
right
here.
here.
It is here.
And it is Applebee's.
I know this for a fact. It's A.
That is correct. Yes, it's good, it's big, it's Applebee's. Well, with that mastery, Mary, you are the winner of the Devil is in the Details challenge.
Wow.
Congratulations! But it was
Thank
a
you so
tight game. It was a tight
Yes,
game.
good game, Mike. Good game.
Thank you. Do you think, is that like Applebee's slogan? Do you think, or do you think Jeff was trying to legitimately talk it up by being like, it's big, it's
Well,
great?
What's interesting is that when he was talking to us, directed to the camera,
Mhm.
he used a different phrase. He said, "It's big, it's something, it's emotional, it's home." And then when presenting it to the players, it was as good as big as Applebee's. So I feel like he was.
Yeah, he said.
Yes, that was
he said,
in the moment thing.
because I wrote this down because this is one of the variables, as Liana talked about. The
Yeah,
first variable is
yeah.
that it's Applebee's. He says, that's big, that's emotional, that's home.
Right.
Mhm.
Which is,
Mhm.
I don't really get it. Maybe he's trying to like Don Draper it and come up with his own sort of slogan for Applebee's.
Yeah.
Well, from what I remember from Applebee commercials, it's eaten good in the neighborhood.
It
With
and
the Beetle.
With the Beetle, because we know it's his neighborhood.
It all ties in.
Yes,
It all
and
ties
Imagine if
in.
it's like you will dine on Applebee's with some of our locals, and it's just a room full of bugs and Applebee's.
Oh my gosh. Do you think like obviously they send them the Applebee's food, right? For
Yeah.
them to make out there on Survivor. Do you think that not just the contestants, do you think Jeff like orders some stuff on the side for him? Like
Oh.
they get their own Applebee's? Like could he get the wings?
I bet they do. I mean, I feel like they must, if Applebee's is there, you know what I mean? I feel like they got to feed the whole crew. They got like all the producers. Everybody gets Applebee's. This is, look, it's big, it's emotional, it's home, it's
home.
great, it's
Yep.
here. You
Yeah,
know?
It's food, it's here.
It just keeps like adding sentences on of ways to
Yes.
describe it. Yeah, I would imagine so. And I would also think, I don't know, this is maybe a little gross, but like there's a good chance that like the crew eat not anything that's been like chewed on, but like the leftover food from rewards, right?
Why would you say that?
Well,
Like if there's a plate with 7 burgers on it and they eat 5 of them, are they just throwing the other 2 away, or are people like,
I
I'll eat
see.
those other 2?
I don't know. I can only imagine that they now have the infrastructure there where everybody's getting has access to all of this food at all
Oh yeah,
times.
they definitely do. I've had the
Yeah.
pleasure to go there, like actually
Oh,
see
have
that.
you?
They have like a
Oh,
very nice,
cool.
establishment. They have like you could have so much food that you could have. So it's a good point. I just wonder, like, because I was thinking about the servers who are actual members of the production crew. They did not fly out
Sure.
Applebee's servers to be there.
I was wondering that. Okay.
But the days I remember my days of working as a server, right, where I'm like,
Yeah.
God,
Yeah,
I'm
me
hungry,
too.
and I would not eat food off of anyone's plate. I would not judge people who necessarily did if they were starving,
No.
working 8 hours.
Especially if it's a perfectly good untouched burger. I mean, what are we doing? Are we just throwing that away? I hope not.
Yeah, I don't know why I was picturing like the fish that they got as the reward, and the crew was like coming in and snacking on them while they weren't looking or something like that.
Oh,
I just
man.
picture an uneaten burger that's like pristine and otherwise would just become food waste. Like, yes, okay,
Right.
then that's fine. That's different to me
Right.
than
That's
like
different. Yes.
what I envisioned in my brain.
It's
Yeah.
the most dangerous season yet. Don't turn your back or our crew will eat your
Oh
food.
no, this is another factor. This is another sprinkling of cinnamon we don't need. No, no, no. You can't, because you don't
Mhm.
know when the crew's gonna like come in. Oh my
Mhm.
gosh.
Yeah,
Gotta
that's another
defend your
like
food.
predator you have to protect yourself against, right?
That's
Back in the
right.
day, it was like lions, and now it's the crew members who are need a nibble of something.
Mhm.
Well, speaking of, I don't know why I don't know why this was a segue. At the end of every week here on the B&B,
Yeah.
we dedicate some time for our guests to shine a spotlight on something that exists outside of the island, Applebee's
Yes.
included, a charity or cause that means something to them. I suppose we're nibbling on, a little bit of tidbits of info that you're going to be giving us, Mary, since knowledge is power. It's
Knowledge
all
is
on you
power.
this week. Is there a
Great.
charity or a cause that you want to highlight for the listeners out there?
There is. Well, across our country, trans rights are under attack. And so I think it's so important that we support as many organizations that are working to defend trans rights um, across the country, as many as possible. And there are so many great ones to donate to. And the one that I would like to highlight is called the Black Trans Travel Fund, and it's a grassroots Black trans led collective. It provides Black transgender women with financial and material resources needed to remove barriers to self-determining and accessing safer travel options. So that is their mission statement. And I have donated to this organization before, and I think it's wonderful. So I would like to highlight
Absolutely, that's amazing. And yeah, sometimes things work out in a certain way, and I think the conversation that High and Romeo had, obviously being under that same umbrella of the LGBTQ plus, and talking about like the different experiences, and especially like the overall lesson of not being afraid or ashamed of
that.
who you
Yes.
are,
Mhm.
obviously has
Yes.
become very much in the forefront, especially in recent discourse about trans rights coming into jeopardy across the country. And so I think it's fantastic, especially on this week, to highlight such a great cause.
Yes. Yeah. I completely agree. I'm so grateful that Survivor is making it a priority to show these conversations happening and highlighting these stories. They're so important. And yes, thank you. I'm
Mhm.
I'm thrilled to be able to lift them up in this moment.
And we're thrilled to have you here to talk
I'm
about
so
everything.
excited.
You were truly the sprinkle of cinnamon that we needed
Oh,
this season. So thank you so much again, Mary, for coming. I know it's been a
thank
long
you for
time, but like
having me.
it was so much fun. If people
I
want
had
to
a
check
blast.
out again all the things that you are
Yeah.
doing, you're a regular Jonathan out there, just like making it done, finding all that organic cordage and building yourself a resume, quite literally. So
Wow.
you mentioned senior year. You've had a couple
Yeah,
other recent projects that you've worked on. Like
I
where are
have.
you all abouts right now?
Oh my gosh. You can find me. Well, I try to promote the things I'm in on my social media. So mostly on Instagram, but I have the same handle for Instagram and Twitter, which is at Mary Hollandaise, spelled like the sauce. So you can find me there, and I will share the things I'm in. But yes, I'm on another show that's on Netflix right now called The Woman in the House Across the Street from the Girl in the Window, which is a very fun little ride as well. And then the movie, the Christmas, we're not in Christmas currently, but you can still enjoy the wonderful Christmas rom com Happiest Season that is, I believe, still streaming on Hulu. So, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've checked all that stuff out, and it's
Oh,
been.
good.
I'm a few episodes into the girl, blah 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 blah. But
Yes.
it is very weird, very fun, very funny, yet also very dark at the same time. So if
Yes.
people are really into like the specific genre of like murder mystery with unreliable drunk narrator, like that is
Yes.
that thread to
This
needle.
is it. Yes, you gotta get into it because it really pokes fun at that genre in a very nuanced way that I appreciate. So yeah, thank
And
you.
then
I'm glad
senior
you're liking
year,
it.
do you want to
Yeah,
describe to people a bit like what that might
totally.
be?
Yeah, senior year is oh my gosh, it's a fun comedy. It stars Rebel Wilson as she plays a woman who was a cheerleader her senior year of high school, and she had an accident, and so she goes into a coma, and then she wakes up 20 years later and wants to finish her senior year of high school, but she's now a 37-year-old woman. So yes, it's Rebel Wilson, and then Sam Richardson, and Zoe Chow, and Chris Parnell, and Justin Hartley, and all of these wonderful young actors who are so hilarious. Oh, there's music. It's just such a party, and especially as we approach graduation season for 2022, it's the perfect movie to watch to get you in the mood for graduation.
I love that. You sold me. I'm in.
Yeah, that national
Yeah.
holiday of graduation.
Yes, we all know dads and grads. I'm all about the grads.
It gets you in the grad spirit.
Yeah.
So yes, yeah.
You just came up with the great season theme, Liana. Survivor 46,
Dads
dads
and
versus
grads.
grads.
That is a great theme.
Especially with
God, that
Jeff
would
being
be
obsessed with casting
hilarious.
young people, right? So it like totally
Yes,
fits in.
dude,
Imagine
Now-
a whole season of Roxroys and Swathis.
Yeah. Now, could it be? Now, here's the question: is it like separate, or do you do a blood versus water of a grad and their dad?
Oh,
I was wondering that too, if it is the dad and his grad, or
Oh,
the
that's
grad and their
interesting.
dad, right? Very interesting. I love it. I'm on board.
Back
on
to
board.
themed seasons. Let's hope.
Let's hope. Yes.
And Liana, of course, you all have everything humming right now when it comes to the reality TV Wrap Ups feed. How are things going for you this week?
Well, we recorded the Masked Singer podcast, wrapped up Group B there. So we have our 2 finalists, and then we'll be going into the final group after that. A mess of a show that's some
can't
reason still on
believe-
the air, but
I
whatever.
can't believe that like 3 weeks they're like, and we'll see you in the finale 2 months from now.
Yeah, it's wild. And then Drag Race, so the reunion was this week. We are taking a pause from our pod. We're going to cover both the reunion and the finale together next week and talk about all of the drama. So pause this week, but we'll be back to cover everything. And then the cast for All Stars winners was announced with all the promo photos and everything.
yeah.
Winners in drag.
Ooh, winners in drag. Yes. So,
Fun.
I think that premieres at middle end of May. So we'll be doing probably some preseason coverage, but definitely for sure coverage of the show proper. And then lastly, the 90 Day Fiancé season 9 premiere is tonight. And so Puya and I are going to be covering that. He's taken 90 Day back, and I'm going to be the first guest to break everything down from the new couples that we'll be seeing. So lots in the hopper for me.
Ooh.
Are you excited in general? Well, give us like your preview of your takes on the winners in drag season of Drag Race.
Oh my gosh, I'm excited. I'm nervous. There's some rumors about the format that is going to be some differences. I was a little disappointed with the UK versus the world sort of all-star international all-stars, and so I'm hoping that some of the issues that maybe they had with that will be corrected for the all winners season. People that I'm excited to see, people I'm maybe not so excited to see, but all in all, I think it's going to be a really fun time.
Yeah, I heard they actually have an hourglass that you have to smash with a stiletto heel to be able to reverse the elimination outcome.
That's right. Yes, it's not so tiny, but
Now I'm just thinking about like the season 14 twist. I'm thinking it's gold, it's chocolate, it's Applebee's.
If only. No, I think that was a lava cake, Mike, or a brownie or something.
Yeah, it wasn't
no
the Thunder from Down
chocolate
Under
there.
because
Right.
that was Outback.
Yes.
Oh, right. Of course.
Speaking of previously
course.
sponsored merch fees. Yeah, so things are hopping with me across the web here. Of course, doing the usual exit press over on parade.com. Really had a lot of fun speaking with Lydia to like echo what Mary said before. She is just such like a fun presence. She is so matter of fact about certain things. Like I asked, what made you and High bond so close? She just went, oh, we're the gay bitches. And then just left it at that. And so I love how blunt she could be with certain things. And she gave a lot of insight as well as to like her own take on things, all her reaction to the twist, obviously, all the chaos that happened with Vati in the pre-merge. So very much recommend you check that out at parade.com. And then over on post-show recaps, adding some new coverage to my plate, piling it on with the wings, burgers, and the like. So Barry which is an HBO show that has been away for some time. Dark comedy starring Bill Hader, Henry Winkler, Stephen Root, Anthony Kerrigan, etc. Focuses on a hitman who ends up getting bit by the acting bug, not Beetle, and decides to pursue it and get out of a life of crime. That's premiering for season 3 on April 24th. But I kicked off coverage with Deidre Lipsikis, who is a great member of the Poster Recaps patron community, to talk through the show. We did a big kickoff podcast about what's the show about in spoiler-free circumstances. And then we talked about what happened in season 1 just to catch everyone up, because that aired 4 years ago.
Oh my God, that's so wild. Yeah, that's so exciting. It's coming back. I can't wait.
So I've been rewatching season 2 and like, holy shit, it's such a good show. And
it's so good.
I'm really excited to have that included back in the HBO Sunday lineup. Hopefully you are all as well. If you're interested in checking out the show, now you have an excuse to. You have about a week at this point to binge watch it. It's 8 hours. It's really easy. So just check it out if that interests you, and listen to the podcast on post show recaps, as well as the lost episode countdowns that we're doing, and maybe some more stuff down the line as well. So that's going to do it this week on the B&B. Next week, we are bringing in a true dear friend of the B&B. Chappelle is going to be joining us to break down episode 8, I guess this technically is, host of Nothing But Netflix, which might cover senior year somewhere down the line.
Oh, we'll see.
We have a podcast on the network, Mary, where essentially every week they cover like something new on Netflix, or like whether it be a series or a movie or something like that. So
Love it.
Chappelle will come on and give what I'm assuming are going to be his fiery hot takes about everything that has happened so far on the season as the jury begins next week. And we'll see. I mean, to the points that we made, like there is an 8, sort of. There were 6 votes that prevailed here. I have a feeling it's not sticking together knowing this cast. So I cannot wait to see where it goes. If you have any thoughts for games on the B&B, you know what to do. You can email them to us, rhapbnb@gmail.com, or use the hashtag RHAPBNB on social media. We are receiving any and all submissions for games. Thank you to everyone who sent them to us so far. We hope to parse them out throughout the season, depending on what is being brought to us by this messy, fun group of people each and every week. Special thanks to Scott St. Pierre for editing everything behind the scenes, and Will from America for his fantastic theme song. We'll be back next week with Chappelle talking episode 8 of Survivor 42. Until then, we'll check you out